Vice President at Skyview Partners, and I'm happy to welcome you today to our session on using the newer clients for accessing IBM I, good for security or not, with our presenter Carol Woodbury and her very special guest Tim Rowe. Tim and Carol will be discussing the security pros and cons of the newer strategic clients that are available for accessing IBM I, including mobile, IBM I Access Client Solutions, and iAccess for the web, as well as a discussion on recently discovered vulnerabilities and exploits that may or may not affect these clients. Today's session is sponsored by Skyview Partners. Skyview Partners is a leader in security services and products for IBM I, AIX, and Linux, and our goal here at Skyview Partners is to draw on the unparalleled expertise of our team of experts led by Carol Woodbury to become team members for our clients' IT group, where we pay attention to security details so our clients can have other time to focus on high-value IT activities. Carol Woodbury is the co-founder, president, and CTO of Skyview Partners. Prior to forming Skyview, Carol spent 16-plus years at IBM in positions including Chief Engineering Manager and Chief Security Architect for IBM's Enterprise Server Group. Our special guest today, Tim Rowe, has worked for IBM in Rochester, Minnesota for more than 2 decades. He's currently the business architect for application development on IBM I, with responsibility for ensuring that the platform has the infrastructure and components necessary for customers to develop, build, and run applications on IBM I. Skyview Partners has many solutions that help our customers, including our very popular Managed Security Services, a monthly offering where we, our security experts, led by Carol, pay attention to your IBM security so you don't have to, and it is available for I, AIX, and Linux. We also continue to offer our security checkups as well as remediation services, and our software packages including our Risk Assessor, Policy Minder, and Audit Journal Reporter. And keep in mind that all Skyview Partners software is available on an unlimited software license. Also want to pass along that we are having a limited seating availability for our next Skyview Security Deep Dive training for IBM I, January 27th through 28th in Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're interested in that, please contact us as soon as possible to reserve your seat. And with that, keep in mind that we are recording today's session. You will also be getting a link to the handouts of the session. So if you are watching this recording and you need the handouts, you can go to skyviewpartners.com. With that, I want to introduce Carol Woodbury. Carol?
Thanks, GD. And this is a great presentation this morning, and I just want to thank my really good friend Tim Rowe for joining me this morning. And it's going to be different. Yes, Tim has some slides he's going to show us, and he's going to show us some demos, but it's going to be more of an interactive session, pretty informal, so that we can give you more of the information and just kind of have a discussion about these client solutions and the security pros and cons of them, really. So, hey, Tim.
Hi, Carol.
And Tim joins us from the tundra of Rochester, Minnesota, where it was
a lovely 2 degrees below zero this morning when I woke up. We're having a heat wave now. It's up to 21.
There you go. So, thanks for thawing yourself and joining this morning. So, Tim, I'll give it to you for the moment.
Wonderful. Is my screen displaying properly, I hope?
It is.
Fantastic. So, to get started, I'm just going to go cover a handful of details about, what we have available, directions that we're headed, things that we're thinking about here in IBM. I'm going to throw in a handful of demos because with any of these tools for accessing the system, it's just a whole lot more fun to actually really show you how they really work. And then we can cover some security interests as we go through these. So again, if you have questions along the way, enter them in to the questions panel, and Carol and I will discuss those as we kind of go through this. So first off, when we talk about systems management and system access, that's a huge topic. What all does this mean, especially when we talk about a huge topic from an IBM perspective? What does it all mean? What are the different components that are into play here as we look at this big topic? from IBM's perspective especially. So first off, this cloud management. When we talk about these different layers, there's cloud management, virtualization management, platform management, and then there's the stuff that I'm going to spend time on today, which is really OS management and system access. When we talk about some of the cloud virtualization stuff, IBM plays very well in all of these different arenas. IBM is very much got to have all the support needed to create and manage a full cloud implementation, and the tools, if you needed to do some of those things with provisioning and subscribers and account management, would be done through some of these cloud management tools through the OpenStack Smart Cloud type methodologies. HMC, that's for managing the actual hardware, figuring out which processors and memory and whatnot goes where. That doesn't change. We've got actually some pretty interesting new support that's coming out in the newer version of HMC that I think will be very useful for many. But for the purposes of our discussion, I'm going to take it down to what my real focus is, and my real focus is the management of the IBM. That is what I care about. How do you access our IBM? How do you manage it? What are the tools and interfaces that we need to do and we need to have available? And I kind of look at this from a couple of different arenas, and we'll kind of dive into that as we go through. So first off, where have we been? Let's look at what we've had in this space. We've had one primary solution that we've had for a long, long time, and that's our Access for Windows solution. That is the iAccess Windows product. It's the XE1 product that's been around for many, many years, and we've been able to, and at times with great difficulty, but we've been able to make it live through the various iterations of Microsoft Windows over the years. We started with this in the mid-90s, and we've been able, to keep up to date with the different install mechanisms that Windows has come up, the different things that they've changed on the platform through Windows XP, Windows 7, and even now up through Windows 8.1. Now, I will say with Windows 8.1 support, we don't necessarily work in a native manner there. You do need to run our Windows support. Our Access for Windows does run in the compatibility mode, Windows 7 compatibility mode. So we know we're starting to bump into the end of life, if you will, of our ability to continue to have this particular technology in a Windows solution and a Windows-only solution. And when we think about that, Windows only, that's really what we have today, and that's what we've had for a long time. But is that really the only thing that's available or people care about when we talk about accessing your system today? And in the world today, the answer is absolutely not. What are the future? What is the devices that people use? Yeah, absolutely. Windows at one time was the predominant device. I can't say that is the case anymore. People are accessing and using a lot more Linux machines. They're using a lot more Apple machines, whether it's the Mac or whether they're accessing it through their iPads or their other tablet-based devices. Well, if we're talking about these tablet-based devices, that puts us in a mobile space, and Access for Windows is a Windows-only installed solution. So how do we deal with the future? What are customers going to be doing? What are the things that are important to our users from a device perspective, and how is IBM going to react to that? And that's really some of the questions that we've been asking now for the last several years. And the products that we've been working on and the solutions that we've been working on that I'm going to spend time talking about today are really in answer to this very question.
So Tim.
Yes, Carol.
What I'm hearing is that if people are running client access, and quite honestly, most of our clients that I see, that I go into, are still running the traditional client access. What
Absolutely.
I'm hearing you say is that they better start listening here, because there may be a time when that is not going to be supported anymore and they need to move to something else.
Well, first off,
is that true?
Before I completely answer that question, I want to ask one other question. So I'm going to answer a question with a question, which I know you're not supposed to do.
Fine.
How many people have actually updated the version of Access for Windows they have on their PC in the last 4 years?
Well, yeah, that's the next question, right, is that most of them have not. They're still running whatever it was that when they installed their PC.
So is that proper protocol for security?
Well, heavens no.
Okay, so therein lies one of the major additional reasons for us delivering some of these other solutions, and that is the actual ability to keep current with the latest levels of support so that you can be secure. So the reality is our Access for Windows product today is still supported. You may or may not noticed.
It's currently supported.
That's a true statement. But to answer your question, if you look at what we did for IBM i7.2, there is no 7.2 version for Access for Windows.
I did notice that.
So that should be giving you an indication that the shelf life is starting to reach its end. Access for Windows is still going to be available for a while yet. There's been no announce as to when it's going to go away. We will probably maintain and support it in the existing Windows operating systems for the foreseeable future. I can't make any guarantees that when Windows 10 comes out in 2 years that it will work at all. And we may not support it on Windows 10 at all, because that's going to be a fairly significant change. We already know we have problems in Windows 8.1, for example.
Sure. So I just wanted to make that incredibly obvious to the listeners of this, because they may just be listening to think, oh, this is interesting, this is cool new stuff, but in reality, they need to start planning to take some action.
True
and
statement.
So that's why I wanted to mention it. So go ahead, moving right along.
So, oh, I thought I had animation on this slide. It doesn't work. That's all right. So when we talk about access and management, there's a number of different components that I need to take into account. And this is where we have our 5250 emulation. You have a system console. You may have specific OS management, beyond things. There's, mobile. How do you do anything from your mobile device? And then there's the role of the database engineer and what tools do they use. So if we look at where we've been and the direction that we're heading, the left-hand column is really about where we've been or what we've had to this point. And there's a lot of iAccess for Windows or iAccess for Linux. Another failed product, but ignore that one. Case, really nothing. So where are we moving to in the future? This is where we have our new Access Client Solutions, our Navigator, and our Access for Mobile support are the key pieces of that puzzle. Now, the one thing about the database engineer, this is the one area where it's still very much a work in progress for us. I would say in all of these solutions that are above the top 4, we have very complete solutions, and in many cases are far better than anything we've had in the past. The database engineer work, that's still a work in progress. In those cases, there are some things that we don't have available in our Web Navigator today that are still in the Access Windows solution. And so from the database engineer, that is the one area where we actually still are updating our Windows client. All the rest of the Windows client support, we actually haven't put out any new features in there in about 3 years.
So Tim, the row and column, the RCAC support, I noticed that went into the iAccess for Windows client.
It's in the Access for Windows and in the Access for Web. That's in both.
Perfect.
What's not in the web is things like Run SQL scripts, Visual Explain.
Ah, okay.
That's one of the key ones that's not there yet. We're working on it. The other one, and this is one of those deals where for, I don't know, 80 or 90% of the database administrator, they could use our new Web Navigator support and do all of their work. They would probably be just great. There's going to be some percentage of, especially companies that are dealing with massively large databases, where the support we have right now today, the Windows client is going to deal with those massively large data tables a little bit better. So again, work in progress. We've made a bunch of changes, and we're continuing to work on that area. Okay, let's kind of dive into some of the specific solutions so we can kind of talk about what's there and kind of dive into the demos, because again, that's the fun part. So the three things that I'm going to cover today are our Navigator solutions, our Access for Mobile, and our Access Client solutions. And we're going to demo all of these, and I'm not going to go in this particular order. I'm going to actually start with our ACS, our Access Client Solutions feature. This is our new strategic solution for 5250 emulation, console, and data transfer. That is where this support now has been enhanced. This is where we're spending our time, and we've heard nothing but fantastic results with the customers that are leveraging this today. There's a lot of very cool things about this. One of the coolest things about this particular solution is it's not an installed product. It's deployed. So as opposed to having a installer that goes out and installs things, you know, you're given a runtime and you put the runtime on the system and you run it. It works on any platform that supports Java. So it works on Windows. It works on Mac. It works on any of the Linux distributions. It actually runs on IBM I, because we have Java on IBM I. You can put this particular solution, if you have a Windows Surface Pro tablet, so in a mobile device, you can use this solution and it works really well in that space. The cool thing is, because it's non-installed, I could actually put it out on a Z drive. I can put it on a thumb drive. I have a lot of different options for deployment. And as far as the ability to update, one of the huge problems we have, we've touched on it already, is our access for Windows. If you want to update it, it's a Windows install. It's painful. So therefore, as we are already pointed out, nobody does it. With this particular solution, it's painless. You drop a new jar file. You can email the jar file to your customers. They could download it. And guess what? It just magically is replaced, and away you go. It takes seconds. And so it's really, really easy to make certain that you keep your customers that are using, that need a 5250 emulator, they can stay current and stay on make certain that they're on a secure and a compliant version of things.
So for those customers that have like a desktop type of environment where they push out fixes, from a central place, all they would have to do is drop this new file in, right?
Yeah, they could actually set things up to have it like on some kind of a network drive and just link to the network drive, and then you can put it out in one place.
Sure. But a lot of people will have their all of their end users, all of their workstations are basically remotely administered and remotely updated. So in that case, they could just hook it into that type of environment and push out that new update.
Easily. And this works actually really, really well in a Citrix environment. We've got numbers of customers that are using it in Citrix, and it's very easy for them to deal with.
Cool.
Okay, so just to kind of break down what we had, where we're going, and some of the pros and cons of some things here. So our existing is our Access for Windows. That's the XE1 product. It's got the client access support. It's mature. It's got tons and tons of stuff in it. A couple of the problems. I've touched on it already. It requires the Windows install. We know the our future on Windows is cloudy at best. One of the other problems it has is the 5250 emulator is built on something called PCOM, PC5250. We've actually been fighting with IBM internally on this one for a few years, and it looks like that battle is on its way out. That support is in the process of being sunset. So we know we will have limited support for that into the future. That's why we needed to look for something else. We also had our Access for Linux product, XL1. It was a poorly created 5250 emulator, not widely used, so we try to ignore it. So the reality is, this is our new interface. Let's kind of dive into a couple of the details just so you understand how it works, and then I'll do a quick demo. System configuration, you get to go configure your systems. Here's where you can identify what systems you want to work with. This is the system configuration panel itself. You get system name, IP address. If I click on the new or edit, I'm going to go in and I'm going to be able to specify the name of the system that I want to be able to work with. Here I can also go ahead and specify that I can use SSL and ensure that everything is encrypted. Works very consistently with what you would expect based on your iAccess for Windows behaviors. One of the things that was our main goal with this new support is to ensure that it behaved much like our Windows product did, so that when customers moved over, there would be, oh yeah, this is what I expect. Much like the other one, you have all the ability to put in different password prompting. If you want to use Kerberos, it's all there, easily configurable, so you can definitely continue to leverage that type of behaviors, just like you could in the previous product. When we talk about the emulator, the actual emulator in this product, yeah, there's an emulator, looks like a green screen, is actually built on the Host on Demand product, or known as HOD. Now, for some who are been doing this type of stuff for a while, you may kind of now shudder and not pay attention because you're like, oh, well, HOD, I tried it once and it was a piece of junk. And, well, we would agree with you on that. So what we did is we actually got a version of the HOD code and we forked it. And we went into the HOD code and we made it work. And so the code that we are delivering here is what we affectionately call JHOD internally. And it is an updated version that actually behaves, looks, and feels very much like the PC5250 support. So that was our goal. All the normal stuff that you'd expect from a PC5250, it's all here. The cool thing is there's some really nice features that make this significantly better. For any company that's doing multi-languaging, that need to be able to have Windows up in multiple different languages for a particular machine, there's no comparison. For the Windows support, you had to restart quite a bit of, I think at one point you had to even restart the PC in order to get it to work. With this here, it's as simple as I select the language, I open the display, and it works just like you would expect it to. So the code page work, fantastic. I will go and show you the watermarks, the screen history. It will demo some of that kind of thing. So there's a couple cool new features that were added here. From a console perspective, we support the LAN console and your HMC console. You can specify the address and you will come right here to your console. One of the things that we do is we take advantage of the watermark support. And you can see in white, kind of going off on an angle, I have this HMC 5250 console there. And that is what we call a watermark. And for our consoles, we default that to be turned on so that we make certain that you don't use the wrong window for the wrong thing. I know nobody's ever done that before.
No, that doesn't happen, especially with our clients. That just doesn't happen. Go ahead.
Virtual control panel. That's all part of there. So this control panel that you would have seen on the old white boxes. You can go right up. Well, you can have the virtual one and have all the information. You can do all the normal stuff from here. This is just where you can configure your console information. And again, the other thing that's nice about this is it allows you to consolidate all of your system information for a particular machine. So I can specify, what the name of the machine is. If I have a 5250 window that I want, I will use that. I can specify which one of my consoles, whether it's LAN or 52 HMC. I can specify that. If I have an additional hardware management interface, an HMC, maybe the Integrated Virtualization Manager, IBM, or Advanced System Management, ASNI, if those apply, I can enter in those addresses here, and then I have a consolidated location for all of that content, and I will launch directly to that from my main panel. Okay, at this point, let's go switch over to the demo here for a minute, and that before we kind of talk about some of the excluding of components. Can you see my Access Client Solutions window?
Yes.
Great. So this is the main panel. It's really easy. Here's the list of systems that I currently have defined on my machine. You can see I have quite a few different things listed, and there's multiple ways to go about doing this. I'm going to do it from here from the moment. So this is the machine I selected. I select my 5250 emulator, and I'm taken to my 5250 emulator as you would expect. I can sign on, and away I go. Now, in here there's a couple things I said I would take a look at. First off, under my preferences, there's this thing called screen history. And this is kind of one of those interesting things that might be kind of useful. So I'm going to go ahead and just restart this particular window. And you can see I'm getting screens, these screen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 at the bottom. Now, what is that going to do? So let me sign on again. And it shows each screen that I go to, which is interesting. What can I do with this? I can now go down and click on one of these. It brings up a little window. I can go and highlight something on here. Control C, go back to my main window. Control V. Copy. I can paste this stuff in here.
Of course you can.
Of course I can. I just have to learn how to use my
copy and paste. There we go.
Support. And so if you wanted to do a display job on a particular job number, well, my job number, my job name is sitting here. I can go copy, paste it. There's a lot of different things that you might consider this support interesting and useful for.
Yeah, it might help when you don't have necessarily, like if you're working remotely from home and you don't have your two screens that you can pop up several sessions with, that might be a useful thing to bring that up.
Now, the other one that I want to just kind of demo, because this one is also interesting, the watermark support. So I've already talked about why we might have watermarking for the console. But for customers that I know that have 15, 20 windows open, even if they have multiple windows for the same machine, it can be a bit confusing. Okay, now which window is this again? Well, this is where I can go in and type in, well, this is LP89 UT27. Yes, we don't have great names here. So display 1. Yeah, let's I don't have to do capital letters. Display 1. And I like pink, so let's go ahead and make it pink. And if I click OK, it'll get redone. Can you see the pink display coming through, or is that too light?
Nope, I can see the pink.
Okay.
So where I see a lot of our customers doing this, it would be they'd have used red and say production, because a lot of people will change the font color.
Yeah, well, I can come here, click on screen. There we go. I'll change that to production for you.
Yep, that's exactly what I would see people doing.
maybe we'll make production orange. Maybe I want the opacity to be 25%. Click OK, and it'll come in just a little bit darker now.
There we go.
So, I can go ahead and open a new session. And for this session here, maybe I want this session to be my QA. And that one will show up as QA.
Sure, that's cool.
So kind of some cool features from the watermarking perspective. Now, one of the other features that our customers use quite a bit is printer output. If you need to get to your printer output to go do stuff with the Windows client, you actually have to then go into the Windows Navigator to do some navigation. Well, from here, we actually built a separate integrated support, so I can go to my printer output, and here's all of my printer output. I can change my view, and I can actually specify to get all information if I wanted, and then I can also specify where I want to download stuff. So in my case here, I'm going to default it to my desktop, but I could also default it to some particular location, which is interesting because I may want to do something with my spool file. So in this case, I can click on it. It's actually going to open it as a PDF. Okay, that's interesting. I want to put it down to my desktop. If I just do a right click and do a download, it's going to take that file and it's going to push it out to my desktop. And if I were to go look at my desktop, I would have a file out here somewhere for that.
That's really handy because I totally see people doing that. They're doing the drag and drop, and that viewer of the spool files in the iNavigator is just a little bit to be desired. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So this is another one of those nice improvements over what we've had in the past.
Yep, absolutely. Now, one of the things that are you going to talk about the SSL, or can I mention that right now?
Go for it.
So one of the reasons I even wanted to do this session, and I was talking to Tim about this, is because after the last session that I did on SSL, one of our clients was asking a question, and they actually had the access solutions that you're showing right now, and they were using their IBM I as their certificate authority, and when they went to connect with the 5250 telnet session, and they had configured to use it as SSL, they were prompted to download that CA certificate the first time. So there was no need to actually push the CA certificate out to all the clients, which is really a huge improvement.
Isn't that how it's supposed to work?
Well, yes.
Okay.
But that isn't.
I was confused for a second.
But that isn't how it works in the original. Yeah. So, but that was one of the reasons why I wanted to have this discussion, is to say, hey, you know what, IBM's making this stuff easier to stay current, to have good security practices. So that's why I wanted to show that. So there we go.
Thank you. Excellent. Excellent point. The other thing that's part of this is data transfer. I know a lot of people will take data from database tables and plug them into your Excel spreadsheets. If you look at the Windows version, which is nice, I can also send them to a Lotus 123 doc. I know that's that's not a widely used feature. So
not exactly.
The support we have here, we support the older spreadsheet version, the older Excel workbook, as well as the latest version, the Excel SX, and we also support the new open document format. So we also support ODS versions. Cool. The only thing that I would say is different from what we have here versus the Windows version, in the Windows version we actually had a plug-in that you had to add into the spreadsheet if you wanted to go directly from a database into a spreadsheet. With the new support here, we actually support an active spreadsheet. So I can actually have an open spreadsheet, point to a cell in the table, and I can then download from the IBM I database into and starting at that specifically identified cell in the spreadsheet. and vice versa. I can highlight a row of tables off a spreadsheet, suck them out, and send them into a database table back up on my IBM.
Which everybody should start to shudder at this point in time, right? Because that is so easy to do now. So what has to be there? You have to have good object level security, right? This has been made even easier than it was before. So any database file that is public authority of use or greater can be so easily pulled down into a spreadsheet. And if it's change or greater, it can be pushed back up.
Yeah, you can really screw your database table up in a hurry.
Yep. So good object level security is an absolute must with this.
And with this product, it fully supports and honors all the object security for your user profile.
Yeah, so it's not like this has introduced security exposures. It just does a really nice job of exposing a wide open security scheme.
Exactly.
Yep.
Now, because of those concerns, people then ask, okay, well, if this is intended for my, secretary or data entry or some of my sales team to use, which it is, because it's got a 5250 emulator and a really good one in it, but I don't want them being able to see or touch some of these other things. Fully understand that, fully respect that. So we can actually turn some of these things off. And this is where it's very easy to configure this, this page here to then, if you will, hide the components you don't want people getting at. So, for example, here's the excluding components. There's actually a property that needs to be set within one of the property files. Hit the wrong button. And then there's a set of keywords, and the instructions are here on how to go about doing that. So this is where somebody, an administrator, could configure the ACS solution for different groups. So I can configure it for my users group. They have only the 5250 emulator. They may also want to have the session manager, where I can then, again, this is also cool, I can go pre-configure the systems for the session manager here and give a nice pretty package to each group for the systems that they care about.
Yeah, and that's cool.
Being able to very easily control what gets distributed.
So this is properties on the IBM I itself.
No, these are properties that go into the actual Access Client solutions.
Okay.
These are properties that you will be part of the actual distribution that you send out.
Gotcha.
And so here's an example of the normal one here is on the left. We've excluded the console support, and you can see that support is no longer shown there on the right.
Gotcha.
Okay?
Sounds good.
Okay. So I think that's all I have for ACS. Is there any specific questions beyond what we've discussed so far?
There was one question back when you were talking about different solutions, and the question was related to the database engineer. Wondering, and you can defer this for later if you want to, but the question was, is IBM pushing the database engineer to the RDI Data Studio?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
There's a couple places. The engineer, Data Studio is probably more targeted for the developer. There's some things that the engineer can do there, yes, but that's really targeted for the developer or maybe the architect who's creating some of the different DLL, trying to convert from DDS to DDL schemas. So there's some things that are certainly there. From a database engineer perspective, where they're trying to administer, maybe trying to understand what's going on, right now the best support for developing the right SQL scripts is still what we have in our Windows client. So we're kind of in a transitional phase right now where some things are here, some things may be in other places. The Data Studio is still is very much a key component, but I won't be discussing that beyond this at this point today.
Yep, that's good. Okay.
Okay, let's go talk about Navigator. Navigator's been part of the client solution for many years. it's also been part of a web solution. We actually delivered the first version of a web-like thing. That was this thing here in the middle that you see. I hope nobody ever used that because it was beyond awful. And that was done in like 5.4. I've since killed it. That's gone. It doesn't exist anymore. And our new version down here in the bottom left, the first attempt at this was in GA of IBM i6.1. And again, it was really, really rich in function, and it was really, really poor in usability and performance. So we've been doing stuff in the web for quite a while. The reality is, though, it wasn't until really January of 2013 is when we delivered our first set of changes to the web interface that reinvented it, that made it usable. Anything prior to January of 2013, again, rich in function, pretty low in some of the other aspects. So this is the Web Navigator. It's part of SS1 Option 3. It's delivered via PTF updates. It is primarily a single-sourced entity. So the reality is this interface is the same across 7.2, 7.1, and 6.1.
Cool.
From an update perspective, unlike what customers have on the Windows box, which again we've discussed haven't been updated in 4 to 6 years, this is updated every time you put on an HTTP PTF group. That's where the support gets delivered from. You put it on the server, you apply the PTFs, and everybody gets the latest version of this.
So this is where, when there's vulnerabilities in one of these technologies that's used in this interface, they would be resolved with those PTFs, and you don't have to send them out to all your clients.
Yeah, there's nothing to send to the client.
Yeah, but that's an advantage using this interface versus anything else that involves a client, like client access.
I mean, yeah, even ACS, while we simplified the process of doing that distribution, you still do have to distribute. With this, there's nothing to distribute. You put it on once, and everybody uses the exact same copy.
Yep.
Because it's on a central server.
And of course, I'm seeing that you're doing this via HTTPS, and so that would be a very easy thing to get configured as well.
No, we do that we do that by default for you.
Perfect.
Nothing you have to do here for that. In 7.2, we added a whole bunch of interesting things to this interface, a ton of usability things. I'll do a quick demo on a couple of those. Some software management. I can do PTFs and look at my PTF groups. I can actually send PTFs from one system to another and apply them. Kind of interesting.
Nice.
From a performance management, probably one of the top things that has been in Navigator all along, and the #1 reason to consider using it is the Performance Data Investigator. If you need to understand performance on your machine at all, PDI gives you tons of graphical information. Pretty cool.
Cool.
There's a bunch of other things that we added. Here's an example, our PTF compare. I have a wizard, allow me to take 2 systems. I can compare my PTFs, and it will tell me what's different. And if I want to, I can automatically update the system that's different.
Nice.
Our collections and PDI stuff, searching capabilities. I won't cover this, so I can kind of get into the demo a little bit. We've done a ton of work in our database area to really improve how this behaves and plays. And it's part of that process of being able to support the database engineer in a full manner. So before I go to the demo, and I want to talk about the plumbing a little bit, because the plumbing I think is really important. The picture at the bottom really tells the story, but to put it into words, the Client Navigator has got a set of primarily Java code that you install onto your PC, and it needs to then leverage some form of plumbing to get from the PC to your IBM I. It's Java Toolbox, Remote Command Server, a couple other things. Well, this new web interface is based on the exact same code base. Now we've updated the actual UI display to make it more web-centric and to leverage web technologies to make it play and react better, but actually all of the underlying communication uses the exact same protocols. It uses Java Toolbox Remote Command Server. So behaviors that you would expect on the client should be the exact same behaviors from a security perspective on the web, which means that, for example, application administration was one of the things that you asked about, Carol.
Right.
Because it's built on the exact same set of technology, any updates that you have in app admin on the client, they apply to the web. And so you don't have to make any changes, they still apply. And so app admin is also used in the web interface to deter, to keep people from getting access to various components within the interface.
Right. So what you were talking about with properties with the ACS product, where you would limit what pieces a user would see.
Yes.
You can do the same thing using application administration for the web interface.
For the Navigator, that's correct.
Yep. Perfect.
So, like for example, in the iAccess for Windows, you would hide things on the main interface by not installing certain components.
Right.
But for the Navigator portion of the client, you still needed to use app admin to determine what pieces didn't show up over here, like on this left navigation area. If they don't want to have work management, security, users and groups, what kind of things do you want to have hidden? App admin is what controls that.
Right.
That applies to the web interface just like it did for the client interface. Same stuff.
Nice.
Now, you had already pointed out and noticed immediately SSL. Yes, we deploy this already pre-configured for SSL. So when you put the PTS on, all you need to do is you go to the port 2001 interface and we do a redirect to port 2005 and change from HTTP to HTTPS, and you are running in SSL mode. Now, you do need to accept our certificate. That's one thing that people have, talked about. We provide a self-signed, a signed by IBM certificate that you need to then accept and move on. With browsers, of course, and security concerns, you get yelled at when you try to do those kind of things, and it tells you to, run and hide. Don't do things like this. Well, you still want to do that.
Yeah, in this case, you do want to do that. Yes.
Now, one of the things that people have asked for is the ability to update that certificate. And we've actually provided a document, it's out on our support doc, that will allow you to go and update the certificate so that you can put your own name into it. So you don't have to have the IBM signed name, you can have your own signed certificate. And that will remove one of the security warnings that you get by the browsers.
Cool. That's cool.
Another thing that we are in the process of adding, and hopefully we'll have that here soon, is people have also asked, well, can I have my own purchased certificate, and can I use that? And we are in the process of making that also happen.
Nice.
Okay. So let's go just play with the interface just for a little bit. I've actually already gone ahead and signed in. You sign in with an IBM user ID and password, and if you want to see it, well, I might as well just go right from the beginning. Why not? Let's close that. Let's open up a window. Port 2001, and you can see it's going to redirect to port 2005. Of course, it has my user ID and password already cached on this particular browser, so it signed me right in directly.
Sure.
As far as getting around things, we added this cool search menu up here. So if you know things like by their CL command name, well, I can use that. So for example, WRK, ACT, jobs, you can see it's already found it. I can click on it directly, and I don't even have to go over to this navigation area to go find things by their real names, we have the ability to, you can use the shortcuts. I could come over here, and if I wanted to find things about DASD, and okay, let's look at disk. I can see all the disk displays, click on one, it'll take me there directly. So we've added a bunch of quick ways of doing things. We have a new favorites, so I can build my own things that I care about quickly and easily. I mean, again, there's just tons and tons of stuff that's in here. The filtering that's on every single table is kind of cool. So I've got a list of jobs on this machine. This particular machine has got, 376 items. I want to find my jobs, so I can go type in my name, but of course I can't spell my name, so it's not going to find anything. So if I actually type in my name correctly this time, I get just the 6 items that I care about.
Nice.
So again, lots of different things that we've added in this particular thing.
Maybe we could go right on to the mobile.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because I was thinking my time is starting to
escape.
So access for mobile. Mobile has been a real hot button for, I think, everybody here. You need to be able to manage, or you want to be able to manage some basic aspects of your system from your iPhone or your iPad. Do you have a need for a 5250 emulator from that device? That's what we intended to make our Access for Mobile solution be able to answer those questions and be able to provide for you. We sort of cheated in a way on this particular solution. It's actually built on our 5733XH2, our Access for Web product. It's a product that's been around for the dog's age. It's been around for a long time. Well, last January, actually this past January, just this year, 8 weeks before GA of 7.2 is actually when this sort of came about. One of our developers started playing with this and went, hey, if I change the style sheet and I make some updates and change this and change that, it actually works really well in a mobile format in a small footprint environment. And we're like, done. And so we went heads down for 8 weeks and went crazy and actually delivered a product at 7.2 GA that we've since gone and continued to update.
Nice.
We've found that it works on every mobile device that we've tried to date. All the Androids, all the Apple devices, big and small, BlackBerries, the Windows Surfaces, any web-enabled mobile device. This is not an installed mobile device. It's a web-enabled mobile device. Now, I can put a shortcut on my mobile desktop easily, but it's still going to launch into a web-based page. So from a demo perspective, I'm going to actually demo this, but I'm going to demo it from my web page. So I've actually gone and I've signed on already. Maybe it's for the sake of showing this properly. I'm going to go ahead and just kill that. I'm going to just open up a brand new window.
So we're going to pretend that this is from your Android phone or your iPad.
Demo my iPad on the web link very well.
It's hard, I know.
So LP13, yeah, UT23, port 2001. Again, we're going to keep that same common port just because it's easy for people to remember. We have a simple URI, IA mobile. We don't care about the case. So we've tried to simplify the access point. We're going to then, again, like everything else, we're going to reroute you. We're going to reroute you to port 2011. And what we've done is we've created a new job. If I go look under my active jobs, I can go find my admin jobs, and you can see I've got all my admin jobs there, and I have one here called Admin 5. So we created a new Admin 5 job, and if you looked at the slides that I have coming up in the document here, these slides here are just going to tell you how to get the product, install the product, and get it started. You run a simple command, this script. or a CL command, and then this is the URL that you go to access it, and you end up right where right here where I was at. This interface is rather cool. I mean, on your mobile device, it works really well on anything with a bigger surface, of course, but it works fantastic even on something like your small phone devices, especially for some emergency type situations. Now, again, I've said right from the start, there's nothing actually on my mobile device. So
yeah, this is just a browser, right? This is just a browser interface.
The browser interface. So for the 5250 component, this becomes interesting. So I can go start a session, and I'm going to get a nice little 5250 window. I can sign on and do my thing, and it works very much like you would expect the 5250 window to work. Does all the same normal things. Okay, machine, work.
So, okay, we had a question about macros earlier.
Oh, on ACS, macros are fully supported.
Okay, there we go. I'm glad that came up because that prompted me to ask that question.
I guess let me rephrase that. Macros are almost fully supported. The one thing that is not supported within the macros is if you're doing anything with Visual Basic, because people have written VB macros, and those are
well, those are Windows things, so that would make sense that those aren't supported.
Everything else from a macro perspective work great.
Okay, that's cool.
Oh, this is funny. My machine decided to do something stupid.
Well, of course it did. It's because you're trying to
Do a demo.
something. Yep, of course it did. Somebody probably took it down underneath you.
Yeah, actually it probably did because I am using a development machine here.
Not a problem.
I don't have it running on that machine. Don't you
Oh,
hate
well.
it? Stuff happens. LP13, let me go back to it. So I can't show the 5250 emulator, unfortunately. It's decided to take a turn for the worse. But my printer output, for example, I can bring up printer output. I can click on it. I can open up a printer output. It converts it to PDF format, and it displays it on my iPad.
Nice.
Beautifully.
So how far back, what releases is this supported on?
Well, this is cool because this is actually only supported in the 7.2 version of XH2. So now everybody just went,
Right.
except that the 7.2 version of XH2 can be installed on 6.1.7.1 and 7.2. And everybody goes, woo!
Exactly. All right, that's awesome.
So you have to make certain that you get the 7.2 version of XH2 and the latest PTFs.
Okay.
The other thing that's kind of nice, messages. My operator message queue. Do you ever need to respond to a message? So if I have an inquiry, I don't have any inquiry on this machine. So info, I can't spell. Informational, you can see those are the only ones that just popped up now based on my search criteria. If I get rid of it, I get everything back.
That's awesome. If you're on call and you get a page out that you have to do something.
You click on the link and
Yep.
you see what the message is, and if there was a response, you could respond to it right there into the machine. And you can see, the things that I've clicked on are actually pretty snappy. There's also the ability to run an SQL script. I can do a run SQL statement here in this interface.
Okay, again, very scary, right?
Scary? This is exciting stuff. Okay. For people who like.
Yeah. So again, object security is key here. Now, for those people who are using exit programs, they're coming in through the servers as normal, right?
That's correct.
Okay. So if you've got exit point solutions in place, those are still going to capture those requests coming in. But you've got to realize that the access to this system is getting easier and easier and easier. And so you have to have security in place.
Yeah. And one of the other things that's built into this solution is there is actually the ability to control what is seen by a customer and what they have access to. So there's actually the preferences, and there's actually a policies. So an administrator can go in under policies and set for each user or group which exact features they are or are not allowed to play with, and that can be controlled from at a system level.
Okay, and they would go into what to get that to set these policies?
So if I come over here, so if I'm signed on as administrator, I could go to customize, I could go to policies, I could then, edit policies for either me, I could go look at all the user profiles, and I could go edit a specific user profile if I wanted to, or I could go edit a specific group profile.
Perfect.
So if I were to go back to my users, if I'm going to go look at Amara and I'm going to go edit his, I can go and take the 5250 and I can say, no, deny him, he doesn't get access to 5250, for example, and that entire page will then no longer be there. That entire link won't show up.
Gotcha. Okay, so here's a question about being, like the connectivity from a VPN perspective. I would assume that you would, if you are out shopping for Christmas perhaps at the mall, of course you're not going to do that, Tim, but if you're out shopping for your lovely wife and you get something that you have to connect back into the system, you would have to be able to connect first to your VPN, right, your workplace VPN, and then launch this?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
right.
It's no different than, you need to have, your mobile device needs to be able to access your system somehow.
Yep.
So we're not doing anything outside of that realm, because remember, all we've done is we've enabled a port. You'll need to open up port 2011.
Okay.
And then you'll need to be able to get through whatever firewall that you have protecting this particular system. But
right.
It works great on a cell service. I've got one of my customers. He actually has been using this, and he loves it. He's responsible as a system administrator for his systems. He's out for a run one afternoon. He gets the frantic phone call. System's down, system's down. Oh, okay. He stops his run, pulls out his iPhone, signs on, makes the updates, gets the system back up and running.
Continues on with his run.
His run 3 minutes later.
Nice.
It's just sweet.
Nice.
Now, the cool thing about the 5250 that I wanted to just mention is because this is all server-side, there's nothing on the browser. There's nothing on the client. So if I actually are bumped off one cell tower, move to another cell tower, go from one Wi-Fi node to another Wi-Fi node, I do not lose my work. I can re-access that active session. So if I go into 5250 and look at my active sessions, here's my active session. I can click on it and actually re-access that session.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, cool. Now, I mentioned exit points, and one question came in and said, what exit points manage the IA mobile? And I think I can answer that. There is not a specific exit point for the IA mobile. That's just a URL. I mean, that's just something that you specify on a URL, right?
Correct.
So that's coming in through the HTTP server. That's not something special.
Yep.
And so there is no exit point out of the HTTP server. But what happens is that any request that you make gets redirected to the appropriate server. So that SQL statement that you're about to run, that gets redirected to the database server and so forth.
That's correct.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're about out of time, unfortunately, but this has really been awesome.
Time went too fast.
I know. We might have to do this again. But I so appreciate the time that you put into doing this demo for us and to just do the presentation and do. I know you are extremely busy with everything that you're doing, so I really appreciate the time you took to talk with us today.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
All right, so JD, we're going to turn it back over to you, and thanks everyone for listening. And this has been Tim Rowe from IBM Rochester giving us a tour of the new, more modern and more secureable Access clients.